Hello, everyone, and welcome in on a Monday evening. The final weekend of the regular season is complete. Transfer portal, college football, bowl season, everything and more heating up on tonight's episode of The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in to the show. My name is Bryce Koon alongside Ralph Leary and Will Manis. Will's a little under the weather, but that's okay.
Coming back, exhaustion, losing my voice Saturday night.
Pain.
Traveling, the weather
Pain.
dropped like 20 degrees. So, but we're getting there. We're getting back. Feel a lot better than I did yesterday.
Well, hey, before
Will slept for 4 hours yesterday, though.
Will slept from 5 Eastern to 9. Will, I guess really 6 to 10 because you texted me. It was like 9:15 over here, and I was like, "Oh, dang! I know he's not."
He went back to sleep, so
that's okay. Hey, before we get this show on the roll, show on the road, rolling, whatever you want to call it. Let's we're introducing something new here, Ralph. You can go and throw up the people, new members of the show. Now there's 2 tiers to this. There is the tier, the walk, obviously the show called is The Crowded Booth. It's made obviously because it's like a broadcast booth, but also it's kind of it's not the corner bar. It's not a booth in the corner bar, that's for sure. It's just a booth. So we have the walk-ins. Those are your people that maybe they're not the regulars. And so far, Ralph, the walk-ins are my man Jonesy, Zach Garrison, I believe. Louis is he's one of the regulars. The regulars is tier 2. Now, look, this is what you do. We encourage you to join because what this is going to do is we're going to be doing some really, really fun things with this. We're going to do some member-only shows, some I want to say members-only content, but that just sounds weird and it sounds uncomfortable. But we're going to be doing some stuff and some Q&A and some mailbag stuff, especially as college recruiting season goes. So this is what you have to do. Right down there at the bottom of the video, if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see a button that says join. Do that. I believe it's $2.99 for the first one, and I think $7.99 or $9.99 for the other one. Whatever it is, hey, we appreciate you joining and continue to support the channel as well.
We have 2 more.
What'd you say, Ralph?
You have 2 more members. You didn't want to shout them out.
Oh, I can't see it. Who we got? Aaron Holland.
And then
appreciate you.
The best
one. And then the man himself, Dr. Bob, became a YouTube member.
No surprise.
Dr. Bob was at that Michigan-Ohio State game, which
and
was
the first comment.
And he's first. I mean, look, he's all over it. He's all over it. He's all over it. But hey, week 13 has come and gone. Let's just kind of take a temperature of the room here, folks.
It's freezing over here. If that's what you're asking.
It's cold. It's really, really cold in Louisiana too. I will say this. How you guys feel about college football season, regular season being over? Will, you start us.
Could be recency bias, but a lot of sadness. A lot of sadness over here.
Pain.
Just pain.
Just pain.
Ralph, you want to delve any more into your thoughts at the end of the college football regular season? I don't think Will's going to be saying too much tonight.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like when it first starts, this is a really slow start of a season. You get week 0, you get like a few games are, one may be really good, and the other one's just kind of boring. And then week 1 hits, and it's like Christmas in September. It's the best day ever. And then before you know it, it's week 11, and you get 2 more weeks of football. And it's just like we're getting rivalry weeks that are coming up. Who's playing, what conference championships coming up, and you keep thinking like, well, who's going to be in the Final Four? And the next thing you know, it's championship weekend or week, and then we have playoffs. We have bowl games coming up soon. So it is what it is. Oh.
For the people listening to the podcast, Dr. Bob comments, the numbers 4 and 31 are not Will's favorite numbers right now. We're going to talk about that game. And I'm really honest with you. If you keep poking Will, he's going to poke back when we talk about Georgia Tech. I will say that.
We're not allowed to talk about it, apparently.
No,
you're not allowed.
No, you are. I give you executive authority.
First recap, Bryce, or we go straight into the pain?
We're going to go Michigan, Ohio State. Let's do that one first. Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan wins the 3rd straight over Ohio State. Dr. Bob was in the building. Guys, I just think And let's get Dr. Bob's question here, or his comment. He goes, Dr. Bob had quite the experience at Michigan Stadium. No, I didn't rush the field. Only my best man did. Michigan fans are cool, and the ones I met at the tailgate really respect GT as a school. This was a really, really good football game. When you just get down to two powerhouses, I've always been an SEC person. I think Auburn, Alabama, as we saw, is a great rivalry. But I think right now, over the past 3 or 4 years, with the way the two teams have been playing over the course of the regular season and what this game means, this really might be the biggest rivalry and the most impactful rivalry in college football. And Michigan's won 3 straight. We're going to talk about. We can take this anywhere you want. We can start with Michigan, and then we can talk about Ryan Day and Ohio State, wherever you want to go with this. But your thoughts on this game?
Well, firstly, you're poking the bear early with that comment. But as far as college football playoff is concerned, I can't argue with you that Michigan Ohio State has been more impactful in recent years, unfortunately, because Auburn has not even sniffed the top 4 since 2014, I think. So it's rough. You're gonna hear a lot of frustration from me tonight, so just be prepared. But I mean, like I said, this was a really, really good football game. I think we saw, at least I saw a lot of things I wasn't expecting, namely a really good passing game from Ohio State. Kyle McCord, 18 of 30, 271 yards, 2 touchdowns, had the 2 picks, but I think that's the best they've thrown in 6 weeks. I mean, they really were able to find something against this Michigan secondary, which was a surprise. And it was Marvin Harrison Jr., 118 yards and a touchdown. Really, really good game. There's a lot of points, and Ohio State really, really made Michigan push the ball and put up points, something that they haven't had to do recently. But I think this just showed how good of a team Michigan is. I had a feeling that they were holding back the last few weeks, not trying to be explosive, not trying to give the ball away on offense, but they couldn't do that on Saturday, and they played really well. Showed that those last couple games they had where they didn't have to do that their offense didn't really take a step back. I mean, even Donovan Edwards, that trick play from Michigan that they rolled out, Donovan Edwards throwing a 34-yard pass. If you're a stat nerd like me, you'll like seeing that his passer rating 385.6, 1-for-1 for 34 yards. I don't think I've ever seen a passer rating that high. But I think this game showed us the balance of Michigan. You look at the points, 30-24, but it was kind of a methodical back and forth game. You look by scoring, I'll just say Ohio State, they scored 3 in the first and then 7 points in the last 3 quarters. So it wasn't like they were running up and down the field on Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But they're too talented on offense not to score points. But it was, I'm just kind of surprised at the number of points scored. I really thought that Michigan would be able to kind of just shut down Ohio State because Kyle McCord has been so poor this year, but he played a really, really good game outside of those 2 interceptions.
Yeah, obviously, I see a comment down there from Dr. Bob about the Zach Zinter injury. That really, I believe it was the very next play they scored the touchdown, which was huge there for Michigan. Yeah, very next play. One key stat before I throw it over to you, Ralph, was just kind of crazy. I mean, look, when you're only converting third downs at a 25% mark, 3 of 12 Michigan was on third down conversions. They only averaged getting at 3.3 yards per third down attempt. When you can win a game despite that, I think it goes like what you said. Well, it shows the balance. And look, I've been very critical of the Big Ten teams. I still do believe that we're going to need to see something from Michigan if indeed they are the team that makes the playoff. We're going to need to see more explosive offense. We're going to need to see some, semblance of an offense that can go toe-to-toe with the potential matchup of Oregon or Washington or Georgia and Alabama, who I think all 4 of those teams have better offenses. So in the sense of explosiveness, this was enough to beat Ohio State. Ralph, your thoughts on this game from the Michigan perspective, and then we'll take the Ohio State perspective.
Yeah, Michigan just did what they've done all year long, just run the ball. Basically,
Yeah.
McCarthy's not. Yeah, McCarthy's really not he's not going to throw it for 350 yards. He's not going to sling it 40 times a game. He's a game manager. I feel like that's what they've had the last 3 years at quarterback. With McNamara and now McCarthy. So they ran the ball very well. But the one thing Michigan did that they have done, they didn't do on Saturday, they've done all year, is third down. They're on third down. They were terrible, 3 for 12.
Yeah.
But went 3 for 3.
Dr. Bob did point out 3 for 3 on fourth down. Yeah.
Right. And they were 3 for 3 on fourth down, which is, very good. But obviously the third down.
Perfect even.
Yeah, it is very perfect. but the 3 for 12 is a problem. because usually your third downs is where you want to, you don't want to have to do a fourth down. You don't want to have to switch. You don't want to have to turn the ball over in midfield. So, that was shocking for me. They stopped Travion Henderson, I thought, very well. 60 yards on the ground for him over 19 carries, where he is usually upper 90s rushing the ball pretty much every game. They just played a great game overall defensively. Obviously they had the two touchdowns, which Marvin Harrison. He's very good.
Probably your Blitnikoff Award winner. Yeah,
Bradley. But I just thought Michigan just played I think you said this last night. A very vanilla game about Georgia. I didn't think Michigan did have one trick play. It was very different for them, but it was not very it didn't seem like I thought Michigan could have easily put more points on the board in this game.
Yeah, they forced the 2 turnovers, which was huge in this football game. Obviously, on that last drive against Common Core.
Yeah, the last one was just just threw it up there. I felt like it was kind of a
desperation type of play.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's take this stance here, because with Michigan, look, they win their 3rd straight. They're going to, move on to the Big Ten title game against Iowa, which if they don't win that, then they don't deserve to have a Power 5 football program.
Wait a minute. Wait.
They also
are starting on that now, because I've got a lot of
no.
Here.
I'm just moving over to Ohio State. I was just saying this is what's coming up next.
20-point favorite, by the way.
And they should cover that.
The last thing I want to say about Michigan, I'm very interested to see what kind of adjustments they make, because you talk about Iowa, but they're only giving up 12 points per game defense. So they're really, really good defensively. Ohio State was the best defense Michigan's played all year, and they struggled. So they're going up against just as good, if not a better defense in Iowa. So they're gonna have to make some adjustments and figure out how to put up 2 touchdowns. That'll probably be enough to beat Iowa.
It'll be 10-3. The final score will be 10-3 or 10-6.
Yeah, I won't watch that game. That'll be like the one championship.
I think this,
and I'm serious. This will be the one conference championship game I won't watch. I will not turn this one on.
I'm interested.
I don't think I've ever watched the Big Ten title game, to be honest with you.
I watched it last year. That's about the first time I ever watched it.
That's fine. I understand. I get why people like it. I just don't. I don't enjoy that. Let's talk Ohio State, though, here. Guys, let's just be honest. Ryan Day, 3rd straight loss. A lot of fans want to fire Ryan Day. My question is, who are you going to get? Like what, if you fire Ryan Day, what are you going to do that's better than that?
I'll tell you who they want back. They want Urban Meyer back.
Well, that's probably who they want back.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you this. I've said this all season. This Ohio State is an elite quarterback away. That's what they are. I don't know if you guys saw the kind of rumor mill heating up. We're going to talk about it later with the transfer portal. Malik Murphy could be a candidate to jump into the portal from Texas and go to Ohio State. Look, Kyle McCord like you said, Ralph, they threw the ball, and Will, you said it too. When McCord 271, he didn't have a bad game, but it's not been the CJ Strouds, the Justin Fields type of games. The keep going back. All the way to Troy Smith. There have been some serious good quarterback play at Ohio State, and I think that's been one of the biggest things they're missing. So, Will, where do you sit with Ohio State right now? Is this something where it's just kind of you're in the middle of this rut, or is this something serious where massive changes need to occur?
No, I think they're kind of in a rut. I think Ryan Day has made the major changes. Like this year, he gave up play calling. They still average over 30 points a game on offense. They just weren't as explosive, and they were held back from the quarterback position. But they're much improved on defense. It's a totally different defense, totally different mindset in that program from when he first took over, trying to just outscore everybody. So he's made hard decisions. He brought in Jim Knowles to revamp that defense, and man, it's worked wonders. They have the number 2 scoring defense in the country, only giving up 11 points per game. So I don't think it does them any good to make a change. I think Ryan Day is working to improve. He's done about all he could. Yeah, he missed on a quarterback. So what? All the best coaches miss on a quarterback from time to time. So and he's just at Ohio State at a time when Michigan's the best that they've been in, I don't know, 20, 25 years. Yeah. Michigan is up there at the top tier of college football, and I think Ohio State's maybe just a half step behind. If they get Malik Murphy, if they can hit on a transfer quarterback, or if he can develop another guy that they've already got to get them over the hump to make them even more explosive on offense moving forward, they're going to be right there. I mean, you're contending for the playoff every year. That's where you want to be in college football right now. You want to be pushing for the top 4. Yes, Michigan's your biggest rival, but they're also one of the best teams in the country. That's a big hurdle to get over. It's one that I watched Gus Malzahn go through for 7 years at Auburn. He had Auburn right there, 2013, 2014. 2017 had Auburn in the top 5 in the playoffs. 2019, the 9-win season. But Malzahn suffered from being at Auburn when Alabama and Georgia were at the top of the sport. Ryan Day's going through the same thing with being at Ohio State, being the Ohio State head coach when Michigan's at the top of the sport.
No, I agree with you. You talk about transfer quarterbacks. Tyler Van Dyke, anybody? He just entered the portal. No thanks. I don't think you want that. Hey, let's Ralph, let's go to you on this. Any final thoughts on Ohio State? I mean, I think we'll really hit all some of the big points there, but any final thoughts as we wrap up what they call the game that has just really lived up to the billing the past 3 seasons?
If someone in the top 4 loses in this playoff or loses in the conference championship this weekend, besides Washington, because Oregon will get in, Ohio State still has a chance to get in.
Yeah, Ralph's living in this fear. Well, I don't know if you've been – Ralph's living because he's been hurt by Ohio State getting in the playoff that one year, and I get it. I don't see a scenario how they get in, like unless you had like 3 conference title teams lose. I don't know.
I mean, it's a chaos scenario for them to get back in, no doubt about it. We're not going to go past 4 in our top 4, but I think Ohio State will be right there at number 5. I think the committee will have them at 5, leaving the door open for them. They got a tough decision to make tomorrow night, but I would place them at number 5. They'll need help, no doubt about it. They'll probably need Alabama to take down Georgia. They'll need
Louisville to beat Florida State.
They'll need Louisville to beat Florida State. Maybe we'll find out tomorrow how the committee feels about Florida State. They had a big comeback win. They'll probably need Oklahoma State to beat Texas in the Big 12 title game to be able to sneak back in to knock some teams out. They'll definitely need Oregon to win. So it's a chaos scenario, but I think they're right there. Like I say, I think they're just a half step behind Michigan, who's at the top.
Ralph, your thoughts?
I just have that fear. I mean, I know we can joke about it.
It's going to be harder this year in previous years, though.
It is.
Like Will said, there's a lot of stuff that have to happen.
The community loves Ohio State. They always want Ohio State in the top 4. I just know it. I just know how it is, and they'll say like, well, they had a better resume than so. Oh my God.
Excuse me.
We'll give him a second.
Pete Gate.
Go ahead.
My lie is just one thing. It's Ohio State's a good team. We'll hit perfectly. They're just a half step behind Michigan. It's truly are. To me, it's just like this. They finally got the defense they wanted. We were so used to Ohio State having such an elite offense, with the best receivers, which they do. Having a solid running back, which they do. Trayvon Henderson's been great. You have the elite defense, the defense that we've always wanted Ohio State to have, to finally play defense, and you just missed this year with a quarterback. It's not Ryan Day's fault. I don't think they have anyone behind Kyle McCord that could play better, honestly. So
I'm with you there. Dr. Bob's comment's interesting. He goes, Kyle McCord's not necessarily a miss. Kid has some big moments, especially against Notre Dame. Throws a beautiful ball, but like Haynes King, he can make untimely bad decisions. I agree here. We're not saying that Kyle McCord is a bad quarterback. They've just had elite quarterback play for so long that
it's a miss to what we're used to.
Yeah, it's just a miss to what we're used to. He's still a really good quarterback.
Kyle McCord, I don't think, is a national championship level quarterback.
Yeah,
and that's what Ohio State needs.
Yeah,
and they've had it. C.J. Stroud. If they didn't play Georgia, they would have been in the national championship game.
Stroud last year in this game threw for 350, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 31 of 48. I mean, that's what they expected out of him. 350 or more. Every game. Yeah. That's just because he was that good. So
yeah,
he's still doing now.
Got a comment here. Like, you lose this late, then you go to the back of the line. Ohio State's overrated. All right, let's move on to this next one. Will, if you're ready, we can do this. Or we can talk about it right now if you want to.
Nope.
We're gonna
whatever. You're in charge here.
Actually, I'm in charge. We can do this one if you want to.
Let's get Iron Bowl over with.
All right.
Alabama escapes with a miracle play in the Iron Bowl. Will, do you want me to lead off with you, or do you want us to talk about it and you fill in your thoughts?
For those that don't know, so Will can just have the longest time he can.
Louis says Will's fuming. Will was in the building. Will, whatever you want to
Was
say.
there?
Whatever you want to say.
Will, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first. Man, listen, there is no atmosphere in college football than Jordan-Hare Stadium in an Iron Bowl. There's
Facts.
nothing close. Nothing close. Auburn comes in limping after getting just boat raced out of there by New Mexico State 31-10 2 weeks ago. Comes in limping at 6-5 against 10-1 Alabama team that on paper, I mean, the spread was 2 touchdowns, but I think that was a Jordan-Hare effect. I would have pegged the spread at 17-21 because Alabama on paper was that much better than Auburn. But I'll tell you what, you step inside those walls at Jordan-Hare Stadium, Auburn becomes a totally different team. We saw it against Georgia early in the year. We saw it Saturday night. Man, Auburn did to that Alabama defense what I don't think any team has done to them, maybe outside of Texas. Auburn ran for 244 on Alabama. You know, I've said all year, Auburn's a running football team. They have to run to have success. This passing game is not going to win them anything. And that showed in this one. Peyton Thorne, 5 of 16, 91 yards. Just an awful, awful performance passing the ball. And it's not all on Peyton Thorne. You know, that Alabama defensive line, they didn't have to blitz and they were putting pressure on Thorne. That's been the same problem for Auburn all year. You know, nothing that I say about Auburn is going to be a surprise because we know who Auburn is, and that showed in this game. But Auburn, man, the guts that Auburn showed was some of the best that I've seen from Auburn. I've gone to Iron Bowls in Jordan-Hare Stadium where Auburn was overmatched. The 2009 Iron Bowl, Auburn didn't have a chance. Took a 99-yard touchdown drive from Greg McElroy for Alabama to win that game. 2017, Alabama comes in as number 1. Auburn was good, but nobody expected Auburn to win. You know, 2013, the best Auburn team that I've seen. I think that 2013 team is better than the national championship team. Personally, I think the defense was better.
Better overall team. I'm with you.
I don't know how that team could stop Cam Newton, but I just think on paper that 2013 team was better. And nobody gave them a shot against Alabama, and they beat them. It took a miracle kick 6 play, but that Alabama team, that 2013 Alabama team, you know, a lot of people think that that's the greatest college football team of all time. Maybe that 2017 Alabama team was better because of all the NFL players. But Auburn beat that team by 2 scores. 2019 with a true freshman quarterback, Auburn beats Alabama. So, and all these are at Jordan-Hare Stadium. There's CBS. I went back and watched the CBS broadcast of the game today, and I think they had it pegged perfect. Jordan-Hare Stadium is a house of horrors for Alabama. Mm-hmm. Alabama, ever since this series has moved to a home and home in the early 90s, Alabama
don't play well there.
Alabama has not been good at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Has not been good. You look at that all-time record, I think Alabama leads by 12 games, but the majority of this series is played in Birmingham, which is a de facto home game for Alabama. But you know, all that to say, Jordan-Hare Stadium, best environment, best home field advantage. I think in the country, obviously I'm biased. I've been a part of it, but I tell you what, that crowd, since I was there, I'll say we were awesome. I mean, it was a ton of fun. It was a ton of fun. And the way that Auburn played, the guts they showed, they went down 7-0 early, you know, got the lead right before halftime and then had the busted coverage. Burton for that long touchdown right before the half, took the air out of that place, but Auburn came out in the second half and I think went right down the field and scored or got a couple first, got a stop, I think. I can't even remember, and I watched the game again today, but man, Auburn just finds a way at home to keep the fans in it and keep us believing that they're going to pull it out. And Auburn, it was the 2009 Iron Bowl was the same way. 2013 felt like it was going to end just like this one did in a heartbreak for Auburn, because you've seen that in the Iron Bowl in Auburn many times. But, I mean, just the guts that Auburn displayed. Yes, the muff punt was terrible and cost Auburn the game. Keontae Scott, Hugh Freeze said today, banged up his shoulder on that last drive, I think on the third down before the punt, the normal punt returner. So he took himself out of the game. And Coy Moore, I don't know why he's a backup punt returner. I think he's shown several times this year that he should have been demoted far past number 2 on the depth chart. But
I have a little stat for you, Will.
Go ahead.
Auburn is 10-7 at home since they moved to Auburn. Alabama at Alabama, Auburn is 7-7.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean,
and Alabama was 34-18 in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow.
in Montgomery, they're 2-2.
And you know, when it was being played, when the game was being played in Alabama, Alabama was light years ahead of Auburn in terms of football. You know, you've got your outlier years. 1957, Auburn wins the national championship. I think there was a pause in the series during the 50s. I know there was a long pause because Auburn went to Tuscaloosa early. I think the 1910s, Alabama didn't cross the 50, and they said you're never going to play us in Tuscaloosa again. So that, you know, that's how that the hatred in this rivalry goes all the way back. You know, just another note on this game. I think this was one of the worst officiated games I've ever watched. That crew lost control of that game from the get-go. Ended up with the head referee getting trampled after the 4th and 31 touchdown on the kickoff because they let it get out of hand. A lot of missed calls.
I've never believed,
rough.
Will, and it's probably just for me being more on the SEC East side of things more typically. I've never believed in the home cooking, Birmingham wanting Alabama. But
Just
I
watch
will
the
tell
Iron
you
Bowl.
this: you watch
Watch
the
the
Iron
Iron Bowl.
Bowl. I go back to the non-targeting call on Dallas Turner against Jaden Daniels this year. I mean, just certain things, and like being around the LSU fan base now, like it's a real thing. And like there's a lot of data points to really look at and be like, well, that supports it.
There's a great YouTube video. It's the 2015 Iron Bowl. I think it's titled "You Make the Calls," and that's another one of the worst officiated games I've ever watched. That was the game Will Muschamp back at Auburn. I think he got 2 unsportsmanlikes, 30 yards and penalties that ended up costing Auburn the game because Auburn was in the game. And you know, but poor officiating. There's home cook in Birmingham. They wanted to be sure Alabama could have a chance to make the playoff. And I'm obviously biased, but you know, just you watch the game and you tell me what you think.
It's fair enough. Ralph, for me in this game, you know, going back and watching it, we watched it all together last night, the highlights, the condensed version of the game. For me, there's just, I don't ever want to narrow it down to like 1 or 2 plays, but really this is a game where Auburn, if they make 1 or 2 more plays, they win this game. You could boil it down to 1, the 4th and 31. I mean, you could talk about a lot of different things.
You could boil it down to the punt return.
I mean, that's for me. That's the 2 big things: the punt return, the muffed punt, and then the 4th and 31. And look, people are going to question Hugh Freeze, you know, because it didn't work out with the not blitzing thing and the spy and all that stuff. I get that. If it works, nobody blinks an eye. Like that's just one of those decisions that a coach knows he's going to be questioned on.
I say go back and watch the game. Auburn could not get pressure on Milroe all night, and when they did, they couldn't get him down. I mean, Milroe was incredible. He played a heck of a game. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he shows how good he is, and Georgia's going to have their hands full in the SEC championship this weekend.
Yeah.
The only sack was by Marcus Harris, which was in the 4th quarter, which was, if you go back and watch that one play, he makes an incredible move on that right guard. And any defense tackle that's young and wants to play really well in college one day, watch that move, because that right there shows you how good of a defense tackle he is.
Yeah, Harris has been really nice for Auburn this year at times. You know, just looking at the game overall, I mean, from the Alabama perspective, you know, I don't expect the same Alabama team to walk into Atlanta next weekend. I think that this is going to be something where you really see, you know, that come to Jesus. Like I think for Georgia fans, when they looked at that schedule, they said, "Oh God, here we go." And probably Alabama fans looked at the game we're about to take a look at next and said, "Oh God, here we go." Because you know you're going to get the best version of both teams. But as we kind of wrap this one up, Alabama does escape. They keep the playoff hopes alive. This rivalry adds another chapter in the storied history. I genuinely believe that you could write about a 40-chapter book and just have each chapter be this year, that year's game. I mean, like it would just be, it'd probably be one of the greatest books ever written in sports novel history. I mean, it's just been unbelievable. So great rivalry game. Obviously, you know, Will and I are going to talk about this more tomorrow from the Auburn perspective of, you know, what to look forward to going to and what can you take away because the show we did 2 weeks ago was pretty optimistic. I think there's still room for optimism, Will, with the way that they did not lay down after New Mexico State. Now, we don't have to get into that because I think that's going to be a big talking point tomorrow. But overall, I mean, look, Alabama advances, and that's huge for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt. Things are still looking up for Auburn. I mean, there's a lot of recruits there for that game. To see that environment, to see just how close Auburn was to knocking off Alabama. So, and a lot of those guys, they can come in and play next year and help Auburn make inroads and knock a peg or two off from Alabama.
All right, let's rock and roll here with the next topic of conversation. We spent a lot of time on that. Alabama advances. Georgia leaves Atlanta with a closer than expected win over Tech. Guys, I did a full recap of this game. I'm just going to tee it up for y'all here. This is my God, honest truth, and we can have conversations till we're blue in the face about this on the Discord if you want to. Make sure you join the Discord. Great conversation. But you will get banned if you say out of pocket stuff like our good friend there, Drippy. This is where I sit with this. I said this last night. Ralph, you were there. Will, I don't know if you got a chance to see my little comment on this. I think that for the Georgia Tech perspective, and this game a whole, there are two sides of the aisles that you can sit on with this game. And it's neither of them are saying anything inherently negative about either team. One, I do think that Georgia's offensive game plan was a little bit vanilla in terms of what they felt like they needed to do, like backs against the wall needed to do to win this football game. They knew they could come and run the football. I mean, Georgia Tech has the second worst run defense in the country. Like Louisiana Tech is dead last. Georgia Tech's right there. So, and look, that's not being rude. Like it's literally statistically, that's what it is. So they knew that. On the other hand, you give Georgia Tech credit. Georgia probably played a B- game, and Georgia Tech answered. The other team still has to do their job. So I was in the camp of, and you guys can take this however you want. A lot of people aren't into moral victories. I think that this was about as close to a moral victory that you can have for Georgia Tech. And when you go into the grand scheme and the scope of where this program has been over the past 5 years. And then for Georgia, I do think that they overlooked this a little bit. I do think that they, I think that next week you're going to see a more focused, more disciplined version of this. But a couple things you point out, that doesn't change the fact that, Georgia's defensive front struggles against the run, and Haynes King gave them trouble. That is going to be a blueprint that Jalen Milroe and Alabama use. They're going to look at this game. Credit to Buster Faulkner, did a great job of scheming things up. I think Georgia Tech played a great game, but I think it's okay for us to say Georgia didn't play great, probably went a little vanilla, but Georgia Tech answered the call and made this, for the first time in a long time, guys, a really fun game to sit and watch between these two teams. So, Will, your thoughts?
Well, I agree with all that, too. You said the first time in a long time because, I'm still waiting on Georgia to rename that visitors' locker room in Sanford Stadium. I'm sure most of y'all know what I'm referring to. Georgia Tech played a really good game. This was I watched the majority of this game with one of my good buddies, a Georgia grad, and I'll tell you, it was pretty entertaining. He was stressing in that first half. I mean, Georgia Tech led 10-7 after one quarter. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think Georgia Tech came in. You could tell that they were motivated. They really wanted this game. Georgia, they didn't play Ladd McConkey or Brock Bowers. I think that
or Rob Thomas or Tate Radledge.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Three top receivers and a pro.
Now I'm looking at it. There's no stats for Rob Thomas.
We found this out last night, bro.
So that tells you what Georgia thought about this game. All that being said, Georgia Tech still has to come play, and they did that. And they get 10 points in the fourth quarter. I didn't watch the fourth quarter, so
say what you want to say about it.
Garbage time points.
There it is.
Because it's 31-13. It makes the score look a lot better. But that shows that Georgia Tech didn't quit. You can't. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You can't quit. And Georgia Tech did not quit. I think that shows where Brent Key and his staff have this thing headed, which is the right direction, because they came in. They definitely were not intimidated by Georgia. Came out, hit them in the mouth. They forced that fumble early, got that early turnover, and really, really made it tough on Georgia. But like you said, Bryce, this Georgia Tech run defense is really bad. Kendall Milton had, I don't know his career stats off the top of my head, but looking at it, career day, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 yards a carry. I mean, the guy looked the healthiest he's been all year. He looked really, really good. So Dejan Edwards, who's been the feature back most of the year, he held him to 55 yards on 13 carries. Not as explosive as Milton, but Georgia Tech far from a finished product, but they're moving the right way. They're moving the right way, I think.
Yeah, I do want to say this because I think there is a counter argument to that of garbage time. I mean, Tech had a chance to get off the field on third down and do that. So, yeah, I mean, it's late in the game. It was 31-13. They kicked the field goal. They scored the touchdowns, 31-23. I don't agree with Brent Key's decision to onside kick with 3 timeouts and about 3 minutes left in the game. That was that was interesting to me. But I do think that this is what I said. Like, this is a moral victory for Georgia Tech. Because 2 years ago, you weren't even competitive. You looked like a high school team on the field against them, losing 45-0. 2 years later, you had a chance. You were in this game with 3 minutes left in the football game. You get that stop. If Kyle Ephraim gets the stop, makes the tackle, then you put Haynes King out on the field for a game-tying drive against the number 1 team in the country. And both of you guys, I ask you this. I think that if you would have told Georgia Tech fans at the beginning on Monday that was going to be the case, they would have said, probably don't believe you if they were rational, and we know a lot of them aren't. Then 2, they would have said, let's take that to the bank. Like, even if you lose, to be in the situation, that's massive. And Ken Herter says, at least I have to watch a high school triple option. Will's not going to like that. Disrespectful. Ralph, your thoughts on this game, though, because I know you were in the show last night. You got to read a lot of the comments. I mean, Tech fans feel disrespected because Georgia fans are saying that they sat their players. Like, that's just part of fandoms, overall. But I don't know. Just what you think.
I think how long have I been doing the Tech show with you now? 2 years.
2 years. 2 years.
3 years, I guess. I started
3 years. Yeah.
Basketball. I've sat through enough pain and comments for this comment section for the last 3 years, watching how bad they've been just dismantled by Georgia for the past few years, and to go out and get beat by 8 points, take it. Just take it, please, because there's no reason. There's no reason to say, well, we should have won. No, stop. Just take the loss at 8 points, because it could have been a lot worse. And if they would have played everybody, it would have been a lot worse.
And Ralph, what you're referring to is the one commenter that we had last night that was not completely off base in everything that he was saying, but was getting attacked in the live section of the comments.
Yeah, I read those comments back with Bryce and another guy who brought in later on. It's sad to see that how mad they got at him because he made a rational comment that they just didn't like. And I get it. You're frustrated. You're upset. You lose. There's parts of the game you probably could have won and made it closer, or made it probably could have made a chance to win the game. It didn't happen. You lost. You get over it. You move on. It's just how it is. But to only lose by 8 at home to the number 1 team in the country who has just owned you for the last 5 years, it's I know we talked about moral victories last night, and you don't want to hear moral victories because this season's been such a good year for Georgia Tech to make a bowl game finally.
Yeah,
but you take this win, you take this right here, you go into the bowl season, win the bowl game, whoever you play, and next year you get ready to go for 7 or 8 wins. So I mean, it's just what it is. It's Brent Key's first year as a full head coach. It's he's gonna get some guys in the offseason. He's gonna hit the portal hard probably. They're gonna get better. It's just this team's not gonna get worse than it was this past year. I mean, can they?
I mean, I don't know. Well, that'll be something that's a good off topic. That's a good off season conversation.
Yeah, depends on how he finishes out recruiting. Depends on what he does with defensive coordinator, because he definitely needs to make a change there.
Yeah, and that was
there's a lot of ifs.
He said clean house and defensive side. I think that's not really. I mean, I don't think he said clean house defensively, but you said some different people.
Me?
On there. Yeah,
I think there's 2 changes you got to make, and then there's an argument for the rest of them.
Yeah,
I think there's 2 different.
I think, and then there's another one is find a way to keep Singleton, because that kid's he's unreal.
Kid's so good. And see, like, people want to play the games, and I know we're going really long with just 3 games we talked about here, but that's fine. We're gonna take a break right after this and come back. Like, you can play the ifs and buts game all you want. The fact that it just didn't happen. Like, Eric Singleton didn't keep his foot in. Like, the interception that you all thought you had that was ruled incompletion, Well, it wasn't an incompletion. Like it just didn't happen. So if this happened, we'd be 10-2, or this happened, we'd be 9-3. You can make a case for every single team in the country if something happened. That's just football. So like that argument, it's just kind of crazy. I don't like that argument because it goes both ways.
Yeah, if Auburn doesn't drop the punt, they upset Alabama at home. I mean, it's
if Auburn covers Brock Bowers and they beat Georgia, Alabama, and should beat New Mexico State, and they're we could sit here and have a conversation.
They might have a chance.
I don't remember the name of the Twitter account, but every Monday they've been updating if the teams that lost 1-score games, they just flip the record. Auburn's a top 25 team, and I think they're 8-4. So Auburn, that puts them, that makes them what, 0-2 in 1-score games?
Ifs, ands, or buts are bad in college. I think it's annoying to hear ifs, ands, and buts.
Very true. I mean, that's true.
He wouldn't be the best player in the country, but he would be up there. He would be.
If Auburn showed a pulse in Baton Rouge, I mean, maybe Matt House would have gotten fired sooner. I don't know, or he'll get fired sooner. Who knows?
It's fired Malzahn, they'd be top 10 right now.
And I love this one right here. Marcus Brooks. I don't care what you say. That was an interception. So what about the ground? Marcus obviously has a lot of skin in the game, being that it was his kid who caught the ball. I get that. But look, it's an effort thing. And like, I'm cool with saying that I think
they gave them their all.
Dude, they gave their best shot. And I'll say this too. If you're going to upset a team, you can't have the number one team playing their A+ game. That's not how upsets occur. Like, one team has to play down a little. Like, also, Texas fans need to understand this. You are not going to beat Georgia with them playing their A+ game. And guess what? Nobody in the country is going to beat that team if they play their A+ game. Like, maybe Alabama. We'll talk about it later in the week. I think Alabama's got the best shot, just for me personally. We'll talk about that. Let's take a quick break because we've spent 42 minutes on these 3 games. Florida State, Tate and Rodemaker, they won. We'll talk about that in our storylines. Then we'll get to our top 4 right after this on the Crowded Booth.
Your soap is ugh, and your body wash is a synthetic detergent. But you're not a dish. You're a man. Switch to Dr. Squatch Natural Soap for Men. For men who build things. Open pickle jars on the first try. Slay dragons. And let their daughters braid their hair. Men who like to feel good and smell. Titillating. Dr. Squatch takes you places you never thought you'd go. Naked.
All right, back here in the Crowded Booth on a Monday night. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to use code Bryce Koon at drsquatch.com. You get 35% off your order of $20 or more. That deal is going to change just about every 2 weeks or every single week until Christmas. Right now, it's 35% off your order right now. We'll do $10 off, and we'll do some more. Are you guys looking at the same comment that I'm looking at? Is that what you were looking at, Will? Or are you just excited about the changing deal?
I'm excited about the deal.
Yeah, you got to get yourself some. Peppermint is the key, especially for you, Will. Dude, I'm telling you, it'll clear your sinuses. Get the whole shower smelling like peppermint. It's really, really good. All right, and the deal does say if you want to smell like Bryce, then use this code. So I don't, Ralph has smelled me more than anybody. So I don't know how we should do that.
Whoa! Pause.
We're just gonna leave that there.
Pause.
All right, let's rock and roll here. As Ralph, we talk about storylines. We got 3 of them this week. We're going to go a little bit over an hour. That's okay. No, there's no programming coming on the channel after us, so that's fine. Let's start with storyline number 1, and it's transfer portal season is here. We obviously saw the news. Tyler Van Dyke enters. The running back from North Carolina, Jackson Dart, says he's staying. Roster construction. I walked past him on the bench on Saturday, and he was just looked like he just was like, yeah, I mean, he hasn't played all year. So it's just, yeah.
I mean,
he's good though. He's solid.
He should have been an Auburn Tiger. He chose to go to LSU. See where that
Still could be if he stays healthy. No, probably
loaded.
Running
back room's too loaded.
I do want to say this. I was talking with someone today, and I want to read this quote because I think it is very applicable to where we are in the transfer portal cycle.
I'm reacting to Dr. Bob's comment.
Whoa.
Shots fired.
What are we doing?
It's not news. It's just funny. He said, John Summerall to Duke, words Ralph does not want to hear.
Here's
I want you
another
to-
one. Let's just say this right here. Let's move on from storylines because I want to get to the coaching. Transfer portal season is going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy. Stay tuned to the channel. We're going to have conversations about this because I think it's really going to be unlike something we even saw last year. Like it's going to be absolutely crazy.
It's the wild,
Trickle-down
wild
effect.
west.
Yeah, trickle-down effect everywhere. I will tell you this. There's a kid that entered the portal today, 3 hours. His name was in the system. And it's just like any type of like directory system, by the way, for people who don't know. It's literally like, the old yellow pages. Like that's what it's like on the internet. And the kid's name pops up there. 2 hours later, it's gone. One kid tells a certain school, he appears in there. The kid he's reached out to, and he goes, "No, I've already got something set up." These kids have stuff set up. Like that's what it is. And so that's what it's going to be. Trickle down effects going to be very interesting. Let's go to coaches. Ralph, storylines here is obviously the big news. Mississippi State and Texas A&M, they find their head coaches. We'll talk about this. I do want to drop this nugget in here. It's being reported that the top target right now for Syracuse, who fired Dino Babers, is Fran Brown, the defensive assistant coach at Georgia, which would be very interesting. Position coach. He's a DB coach there. So well respected over there. He was a secondary coach at Rutgers. He's got experience up that area. Very interesting. All that to say is, let's rock and roll. Let's take it Jeff Lebby to Mississippi State. Will, your thoughts on Lebby to Starkville?
I like it a lot. I mean, he spent, just a year or 2 years with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, so he's got some roots, some recruiting roots in the state of Mississippi, and that's at Mississippi State. You got to do all you can to keep your top talent in state. Obviously, Ole Miss is the best that they've ever been in the history of the program, so that makes it tough recruiting. Auburn, Alabama, LSU, even Texas A&M will dip their toes in the Mississippi water, in the Mississippi mud, to get some of those top recruits, those top talents. They've done it historically. But I really like this hire. Offensive mind, a really, really innovative offensive mind. He's going to inject a lot of energy into that program that's just kind of felt dead the second half of the year. Really, really good for them. I think Lebby's a good hire, but obviously inexperienced as a head coach. But this also kind of feels like he's going to set it up really, really well for the next guy, depending, because he's a hot name. I think if he has a lot of success at Mississippi State, he'll get a bigger job in the next 3 to 5 years. But really, really like it for Mississippi State. They're in a deep, dark hole. And I think Lebby is a really good guy to pull him out of that and can do it quickly.
Yeah, I think too with Lebby, like you're seeing Mississippi State get back to what they were doing well in their history. Offensive-minded head coaches have been where they've had probably their most success.
No doubt.
And the Zach Arnett thing for me is one of those things where I think Zach Arnett's still a really, really good coach. I think he's probably the top DC. Him and DJ Durkin is another guy that I think is going to be a hot commodity if people can get past the PR nightmare that he brings.
If Brian Kelly doesn't hire one of those two guys, I'm not sure what he's doing.
It's fair enough. Fair enough. Actually, I was seeing some stuff where Arnett has West Coast ties, and if Lincoln Riley can get him out there, that would be interesting.
He does. He played and coached at San Diego State.
So that'd be a good hire for them. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Lebby, though. I think if you're at Mississippi State, you have to understand, and Ralph, I'll pass this off to you. You are not going to beat or compete with the top of the SEC, just the SEC West, but as we know it now and not next year, by trying to play their game. Like Mississippi State's not going to be able to play at the same level of the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Texas A&Ms, the Texases, the Oklahomas. I mean, honestly, they're a middle of the road to back of the pack SEC team. They've got to be really, really good in a certain area. And their past just said, when you're really, really good, offensively, you can create some chaos. And so I think that's where they're going with this hire. I don't think Lebby and Lane Kiffin like each other too much. I almost said John Sumrall because I just saw that comment. Maybe they like each other too. I have no clue. I don't know. I don't think Kiffin and Lebby are necessarily like best friends, which could be fun. Even though they were coaching, I was reading.
No, I think they get along really, really
things. Well. Oh, I was reading something on the Oklahoma
they get along
things.
Really, really well.
I was reading some stuff on the Oklahoma side that said like he didn't like him. I have no clue. I don't remember how that went down. I just know that Brent Venables has made a call and said, "Let's bring you out here," type of deal.
I think Lebby just wanted a bigger say in the offense, i.e., calling plays, and Kiffin wasn't going to give that up.
True, that makes sense. I think it's gonna be fun though. I think Lebby and Mississippi State is going to be. They've got to sit down on some recruiting. They've lost a couple of big commits over the past couple of weeks. Ralph, I know that you were able to watch in person some Jeff Lebby offenses when he was at Ole Miss because your sister went there. I hope you can remember that at least as you look off in the distance.
I'm trying to remember what year I went to the game. I think it was 2019 was the game I went to in person.
Well, he was there, right?
Yeah, I think
That was a good one.
Yeah, 2019 was A&M and Ole Miss, and it was
Oh, I thought
John
you were
Rice
talking about
Plumlee.
the Egg Bowl.
No, it was, I never got into the Egg Bowl. My sister never went to an Egg Bowl either, which is just
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame.
Ridiculous.
She had twice. She had 2 chances, never went.
That
Disappointing.
being said, how do you feel about Jeff Lebby being the head coach at Ole Mississippi State?
God, I'm happy. You have no idea how happy I am. When I was told that, I couldn't be more excited because
you
not
knew
from
John
overall-
Sumrall was one of the
Yes.
candidates to go there. That's
Exactly.
what it was. And
I have okay. I'll take it. I'll say it. I'm very happy he's not going to Mississippi State.
that's
But
fine.
he also, if he gets look, off topic, if he gets a job somewhere else, I'm happy for him. He deserves it. He's done a great job. But Lebby being hired at Mississippi State is a great hire. I think they finally. Why are we talking? We'll just had to say something.
Yeah. That was me.
They need an offensive minded coach. I don't think a defensive
Yeah.
minded coach works out for Mississippi State at all. We just saw. I mean, we didn't really give Zach Arnett a chance, but I think they didn't really want to have Arnett. They just didn't have a system. They had a very
You couldn't
weird-
let that program slip any further like that.
No,
You couldn't.
You
They
had a
would have
weird
been.
situation. You had to go with your gut. Just move on with him. Play off for a year and then just find someone for the next season. It's just true. That's just what they did, and that's what happened. So, Levy's a good hire. I think Will said it perfectly earlier on, though. Is he sets it up perfectly for whoever goes behind him. I think the question is, can Levy bring in some people, from Oklahoma, or someone he can get in quick to be his quarterback? Because right now he has no quarterback.
So I was reading this, and I've got it right here in front of me. So apparently, somehow, Dylan Gabriel has another year of eligibility.
There's no way.
And
He's
if he
played
does,
12
if this is true, Gabriel could come there with him, and they would elevate Jackson Arnold to being the guy. I guess he's the backup quarterback out there.
He
I
is.
think
He's the
so.
only quarterback. He's the only quarterback that's played besides Gabriel.
So that'd be very interesting.
It'll be his 6th year of eligibility. He might throw for the most passing yards ever if he gets to play one more
He
year.
might. All right, A&M coach. Let's get to this. Texas A&M hires Mike Elko. Will, you and I talked about this in the show. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. I will say this about Mike Elko and Mississippi State: if they do what they are supposed to around him, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be good no matter what, but it's going to be great in College Station. The allotment supposedly is $11 million for his assistants, which is a bag that you get to throw in assistants. And if he can hire good play callers, position coaches around him, and hire a nice offensive coordinator, I imagine he's going to keep Elijah Robinson, as a guy who's really pivotal, and the players really kind of flock to after, Jimbo Fisher. If he can keep the recruiting class. Will, you know what we're talking about? This is a job where if you step in and you push the 3 or 4 right buttons, you are right back at the top of the SEC like that. Like it's not even no questions asked, whatever type of conversations you want to have about it. That's my thoughts on it. I'm interested to see who he brings in because I think this is base level. Base level, it's going to be fine. This has the potential to be really, really good hire, I think.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting. I think year 1 and 2, they're always pivotal for a new head coach, but I think they're really pivotal for Elko. Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, those games get added back to the schedule. Texas has owned Texas A&M historically, and that's the game that all of those fans want to win. Those fans, those boosters, you got to be better than Texas. Well, the good news is if you're better than Texas, you're going to be one of the best teams in the country. I think this is a good hire for that rivalry. I think you're going to put Mike Elko, the defensive mind, up against Steve Sarkisian, one of the top offensive minds in the game, college or pro. So just on the field, that chess match, I think is really, really good for A&M. It really gives them a good shot to be able to make some inroads against Texas. Because, if you're going to recruit the state of Texas, you lose the SEC advantage now because those kids can go to Texas. They'll be playing in the SEC. So you're going to have to beat Texas on the field to really show, especially those Texas recruits, show them something. more than just the money that you're going to throw at him. Because Texas, we talk about all the money A&M's got. Texas has just as much. But I really like what you said about the assistants. That's a ton of money for assistants. That basically means you can go out and get whoever you want to be your OC and your DC. I'm really interested to see what he's going to do, what kind of offense he's going to run. I would imagine it'll be similar to what he had at Duke. Kind of that. I don't really know how to describe
multiple, I guess.
Multiple. Yeah, it's like a pro style with a lot of spread look. Really, really effective. So, and I also saw they released, he's got a really, really big incentive in his contract. I think it's a $10 million bonus for winning the national championship. So
wow, they've
got the carrot in front of the horse for him. But I don't think Elko, he doesn't seem to be a guy that needs that incentive. He's going to go to work no matter what. Personally, I hope he doesn't do a great job of holding this recruiting class together, because there's a certain wide receiver that Auburn needs really, 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 really bad. That was at the Iron Bowl on Saturday, and he saw that passing game. I think he knows he could make an impact next year at Auburn. But he's a guy that can make an impact at A&M next year too.
Yeah, I think too, when you look at Elko and what he brings stability. Like he brings to a program that over the past decade has just been mired in drama and controversy. Like you go back to Kevin Sumlin at Texas A&M, and towards the end of his tenure, obviously everyone knows the Johnny Manziel saga and what that was. You get Jimbo, the fanfare, whatever that was, Bobby Petrino, all these different things. Mike Elko is just a football coach. Like Mike Elko just coaches ball. And I think that's something that A&M needs. If they surround him as a CEO type of that program, I think that they really have a good shot to be at the top of the SEC very, very soon. And you mentioned, Will, the recruiting class. Can you keep that in tow? Can you keep guys like Evan Stewart, wanting to be a part of the program? And the big question is, I think, with Max Johnson entering the portal today, can you bring Riley Leonard with you? Like, if you bring a guy like Riley Leonard over there because you want him in Auburn, I get it.
I don't think his girlfriend wants him going to College Station either.
His girlfriend goes to Auburn, for the folks who don't know. But we've seen this story so many times, guys. It's like as a coach tries to integrate with their philosophies, how way they want to run the program. One, a lot of guys already know this because he's there before, but it helps when you have like a guy who is a face of the program, like a quarterback, to come in and help with that transition. So, Ralph, your thoughts though on Elko at Texas A&M? I know you weren't around the first time we talked about this, but your thoughts now.
I mean, when the news came out that Jimbo was fired, I think everyone knew the first option was going to be Elko. I think everyone pretty much thought that he should be the first call, the first offer. I think just the familiarity with the program, what that program means to the state of Texas, to what it means to the SEC, and what they've built the last few years before he left. It was a strong defense, just playing great football, and in the last 2 years it's been just been disgusting for what he built there for that defense. So he's gonna bring him back. I think Elko was the best option for them. It's not I would say it's probably not the flashy hire, obviously, but it's the right hire, honestly.
It's not the sexy hire, but they've tried to go. Look, that's the thing. They've tried to go with the sexy hire so many times, and oftentimes when you do that, it's just take the safe route. Like take the guy that makes sense.
The right hire. And I'll say this. And I know it's a Troy thing here, but when Neil Brown left, they were going through the options of who to bring in. John Summerall was contacted, but they didn't offer him the job. They went with Chip Lindsey. It was a flashy hire. It was a terrible decision. Yeah. You bring in Summerall after the 3 years of Chip Lindsey, and you see what's happened already.
Yeah,
it wasn't the flashy hire, but it was the right hire. And it's the same thing though. It's you bring the guy who knows the program. He can. You see him. He's won at a college that didn't really have much. He can, and now you give him all the resources in the world. I mean, he's got a great chance to turn this program around in 1 or 2 years easily.
I'll tell you this too. You mentioned the sex appeal of a hire. I mean, look, Auburn tried to do that with Brian Harsin.
No, they didn't.
No, I know that was not. I don't know what the heck that was. That's one of the worst decisions.
No,
random. They threw his name. They threw it at a dartboard and said, "Who can we find?"
Why not? Let's do this.
Alan Green shared a hot tub with him, and he thought he could be his football coach. No, that was one of the worst coaching searches in the history of college football. The names that Alan Green interviewed were there was only about 2 good ones, and one of them was Brent Venables, and he didn't want anything to do with it.
He didn't want to be a head coach into the Oklahoma job.
I guess not.
Billy Napier did have the job, but
Sunbelt Billy.
Alan Green wouldn't let him talk to Yellowfella before he accepted the job, so he backed out, and then we ended up with Brian Harsin.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back,
I need one.
We're going to go top.
You brought up he who must not be named, so I need one.
We're going to go top 4. Yeah, I think he is. I don't think he's very happy tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk top 4 right after this. Hey, everyone. Bryce Koon here with the Crowded Booth, and I'm excited to partner with Milton and Drew McCluskey as they get on their new venture, the Cajun Cousins Company. It's an all-stop shop for some of the best food and atmosphere entertainment that you're going to be able to have, especially this fall as college football is right around the corner. What is Cajun Cousins Company? Well, Milt decided to start this business back in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where they're based out of. Drew initially joined him after spending some time with the Saints, but they offer catered Cajun delicacies such as crawfish boils and Aunt Dottie's jambalaya. They bring everything and they can set up anywhere. Look, folks, they're passionate about giving people a reason to gather and to get to the culture that they love so much. They're expanding that brand to the low country of South Carolina, the upstate area, and other areas of the Southeast. So look, if you're going to throw that tailgate party or you're going to have a big gathering, reach out to Cajun Cousins Company today over at CajunCousinsCO.com to get that quote. Tell them the Crowded Booth sent you. We can't wait to see what they have in store this fall. Back here in the Crowded Booth, we got a top 4. It does not include the Colorado Buffaloes, which is a whole other transfer portal conversation, which is absolutely nuts. They just had their tight end in there. It's just crazy. Let's rock and roll here. Ralph, you lead us off this week. Top 4, who you're rolling with. Who you got for us?
I can't even find my top 4 on here. This okay. I'm going Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, and Washington. I think what I saw on Saturday. Well, Washington played probably the worst game all year against Washington State. Okay, of course. I thought Oregon played a terrific game against Oregon State on Friday, I believe, and just did not even had no problems at all. Played the best game. Did exactly what they're supposed to do. If you Will not talk about this. If you saw that throw that Bo Nix made when he threw across the field, if you really thought that at Auburn he was a bad quarterback. I mean, I don't know what you've been missing this year. But someone said
on Twitter messaged me or said something, and I saw it, and they said that he's better than Joe Burrow. And I was like, okay. I don't think that's true. Very, very good. Probably going to win the Heisman Trophy. I don't think he's better.
I mean, Bo Nix did almost beat Joe Burrow as a freshman. So
he did. He did
on the road. So I mean.
I think, but the finish off my 1 and 2 stay the same. I think that's really been the 1 and 2 all year for me. Flip back and forth once or twice, but it's been like that. Florida State, look, I understand what they're going through. Losing the quarterback is not easy. They played a great game against Florida. They had a great comeback. Rodemaker played a great game. He took a shot from 2 Florida players. It was a targeting call. Went out of the game for about 3 plays. Came back in, and then that offense was rejuvenated. It was it showed a lot of guts, and I'm hoping that carries for them for the ACC championship game, because if they win, I mean, they're automatically in for me, because they've shown that. They showed they can win without them. And I mean, yes, I know it's Florida, not great, but playing in the swamp is not easy. That place is loud. So I'll tell you, I have Oregon and Washington at 3 and 4 because I think Oregon's the 3rd best team in the country easily. And when whoever wins that conference championship game Friday night is and whoever loses that one is they're out. If Oregon loses, they're out. If Washington loses, they're out. So and then Florida State gets in at 4.
I like it. Will, your thoughts? What's your top 4?
I don't know. Did we change Will's top 4 in time?
Will, yeah. What do you want your top 4 to be, or do you want me to go?
Private chat. Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, Ohio State. I'm leaving Ohio State at 4 because I think they played one of their best games of the season. I mean, I thought they looked like a more complete team than they have all year. They threw the ball on a really tough defense against Michigan. and you lose by 6 points on the road to a team that's, I mean, Georgia and Michigan are kind of 1A and 1B. I mean, you lose by 6 on the road, play really well. So leaving them at 4. Florida State, I mean, they had to overcome a 12-0 deficit to Florida. They did not look really good. I know first road start for Rodemaker in a hostile environment. We'll learn a lot about them against Louisville. I think we did learn a lot about them, showed what they're made of. They're a team that really, really thinks that they can compete for a national title, and I think they can. Mm-hmm. So they're just right on the outside. And then obviously after that would be Texas and Alabama, still just like the committee has them. But Georgia did what they had to do. Oregon looked better than Washington. That's why I have them at number 3. But like Ralph said, we got a quarterfinal matchup in the Pac-12 championship game, the last ever Pac-12 championship game
between two teams that won't be a part of it.
Exactly.
So I've got my top 4 here. And I really think that this is the top 4 that I might be rolling with in next week. Like, I think this is the 4 teams that I think are going to make up the playoff. I think that's why I did this. And, I might change my pick for the SEC title game. This is what I'm rolling with right now. And no, I'm incorrect in that. I got Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State. I've got Washington 3 just by the de facto. The Pac-12 ranking doesn't matter. Whoever wins Saturday is going to be in, like you said, Will and Ralph. But whoever loses is going to be out. Whoever wins is going to be in. Florida State number 4. I can't fathom a world. You need to get rid of the college football playoff and go back to the BCS ranking system 1 and 2 if you're going to keep Florida State out if they win. Like that, it's ridiculous. You cannot punish a team for and Will, I don't think you were here for this episode that Ralph and I did, or maybe you joined late. I can't remember what it was.
That was it was last Thursday. It was last Wednesday.
That's right. If Florida State loses to Louisville, they're out. If they win, they are in the playoff. I don't care if you say their best wins against LSU and Clemson and they didn't turn out. They did what they had to do. They couldn't do any more. And they did what they had to do. Mm-hmm. You can't penalize a team for not having their quarterback and then winning the next 2 games and beating a top 15 Louisville team. We think they stay in the top 15, top 20 at least.
Probably.
Top 20 at least. 20. Yeah. So you can't penalize them for losing their quarterback, winning on the road in Gainesville, and then winning in Charlotte against Louisville if they do that this weekend. You can't. That would be asinine to do that. And then I'm going to go 1 and 2 here, guys. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, and I know there's a Michigan fan watching this, and I'll probably get a text message after this about this. I think that Georgia's best challenge the rest of the way is Alabama. And we'll talk about this later this week. The rest of the way, I think that it is Georgia. Alabama's got the best shot. I think that Michigan is Georgia light. And I think we're going to see maybe not to the same magnitude of what we saw 2 years ago in the Orange Bowl if these 2 teams play each other. But Michigan has not shown an ability to be explosive offensively all year to the point where they can overwhelm you. Georgia has, and Georgia has shown an ability to play whatever game deems necessary for that week to win a game. That I'm not saying just because it hasn't happened, it won't. I'm just saying I don't believe that it can happen. I do not think that Michigan has the capabilities to sit J.J. McCarthy back there and throw 30 passes a game. And I don't think they can win by being one-dimensional. So I've got Georgia 1. That's why I think they're the better football team, even with Michigan's win against Ohio State. I've got Washington 3. Well, just strictly because they won that game earlier this year. If Oregon wins, that's my 3rd team. And I think Florida State is number 4. And I think you see a situation where if it chalks out this way, where you have Georgia win their title game, Michigan wins their title game, Florida State wins theirs, and then winner of the Pac-12, I think this is kind of where you could see this fall. Maybe, and let's ask the question here. Not that it matters for the 2-3 seed, but maybe the Pac-12 champion gets bumped up to the 2 seed if they do feel like that's a better win against the team that I will never name on this show. I don't know. And then you get to a conversation, guys, and we'll talk about this obviously later, where the playoff, we'll talk about this next Monday, where the playoff is if Alabama wins, what happens? Like that, I think that's going to be something where then you see complete chaos, and it would be very, very interesting. I would love to see Georgia and Florida State playing a round 1 matchup, even with Tate Rodemaker as starting quarterback. I'm biased because I saw them play, and I don't know. I think that, like you said, Will, it's a team that believes they can win. Trey Benson had a great game. They've got the players to offset the loss of Jordan Travis. That's what championship caliber rosters are built on. They're probably still a little too early in that process to win a title, but that's where I sit with that. I don't know. That's where I sit. Any kind of final thoughts on the playoff as we get closer to it?
I agree with you. There's no way you can leave out an undefeated conference champion. No way, especially a Florida State team. You consider they lose their starting quarterback, who was one of the best quarterbacks in the country before going down. For them to rally, win 3 games, and win their conference, there's no way you can leave them out. But I'm telling you, the nightmare scenario for the committee is if Alabama beats Georgia on Saturday. That is nightmare scenario.
Well, let's do this real quick because I said I want to get under 110, but we're fine with this. I want to ask this question because this is kind of the last storyline that we didn't get to. The chaos hasn't occurred yet. Like, we have been on the precipice of ultimate chaos happening. It feels like each and every single week, especially this past week. Like, if Florida would have beat Florida State, or I'm sorry, Florida would have beat Florida State, Georgia Tech would have beaten Georgia. Now we would have been like, holy cow, what's going to happen? In this scenario, guys, that we just laid out, none of us mentioned Texas. Texas would be the Big 12 champion if they beat Oklahoma State, which I don't think is a sure thing either. I think Oklahoma State's a pretty inspired football team that's going to be playing, some pretty tough football. That being said, like, what type of chaos do you see any chaos happening this weekend? Or how do you, because I'll give it to you. Ralph and I are going to preview them. You're not going to be able to preview it with us. So you tell me, what do you kind of see unfolding this weekend?
I think the worst case scenario is Alabama for the committee is Alabama beating Georgia, because then you've got a 1-loss SEC champ against a 1-loss SEC runner-up who you've had number 1 or number 2 all year long. The Pac-12 title game, I don't think they're really worried about, because if Oregon wins, they avenge their loss against Washington, so they're in.
Yeah,
it'll be the neutral site game, not on the road.
That's true.
They only lost by 3 on the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Florida State, if they win, they're in. If they lose, they're out.
Yeah.
Michigan, if they lose to Iowa somehow, they'll be out. I don't think they
don't have the strength of schedule to back.
They
them
don't,
up.
and they've got the scandal over their head, the cloud over their head that the committee has talked about issuing punishment, but
dying to use it against them.
Well, and if they lose, that's going to be it. Like, that's going to raise the green flag for them to say, all right, you're out.
It's going to be it. But, and then the Texas conundrum is the biggest one, because Alabama won't be able to avenge that loss. Whereas Oregon and Washington work themselves out. Oregon beats them, they avenge the loss. So
let's have this conversation if you guys have the time, because Dr. Bob poses a good threat here. He goes, if Georgia loses, his top 4 is Michigan, Florida State, Oregon, Texas. I do think, and it wouldn't matter, just matter what color jerseys you're going to wear. I do think Oregon would be ahead of Florida State in that situation, but it doesn't matter. If Alabama wins, and Ralph, will start with you in this. If Alabama wins on Saturday, Georgia's out. I'm cool with saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say Florida State wins. Let's say Texas wins. Winner of the Pac-12 and Michigan wins. So it's that scenario right here that Dr. Bob just laid out. Michigan, Florida State, Oregon. Are you putting in Texas or Alabama?
If Alabama wins?
If Alabama wins. I'll tell you right now, I'm putting in Alabama. But you keep going.
I think, and I'm going to use a power ranking, not an actual ranking. If Bama played Texas on a neutral site right now, Bama wins that game. I think 8 times out of 10. I say 8 because there's that one game that they may play better. But I truly believe that Alabama on a neutral site is better than probably 20 of the 25 teams in the top 25 easily.
Yeah.
I believe that. I think, like you said earlier, Georgia's best chance to lose is Alabama, or Alabama's the best shot to take Georgia.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this too. I'll say this too. I mean, people don't like this. They don't like the SEC.
No.
And you could very well be watching the national championship game on Saturday between Alabama and Georgia.
We watch it.
Like, you really could.
We do this.
I mean,
year. Like it's the same thing year in, year out. Is whoever wins the SEC championship usually is the best team. And we've
And the runner-up is probably deserves to be in the playoff more years than not.
I mean, the only time
I would say last year wouldn't. LSU didn't deserve to be in as a 4-loss team. I'm cool with saying that. Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, I mean, what Dr. Roberts says is true. I mean, I'd probably put Bama in over Texas. Yes, I'm bringing a comment. Jordan, I agree. It's hard to say it, but I think on a neutral site, Bama beats Texas.
And this is the problem with it. And Will, you can answer. You can chime in with this because yes, like Dr. Bob says earlier, the results on the field matter. If they put Alabama in, what they are saying is that they are not going to reward for Texas going and playing Alabama earlier in the season. And I get that. I get the result on the field. But the problem is that the committee came out and when they started all this and they said the 4 best teams. And one, they've never done that. For my opinion, at least, they've never done that. And so genuinely, guys, like I just kind of think that when you see the 4 best teams, like how are you going to leave an SC? This is the problem. It's not even SC homerism. They're not ESPN and who controls all this stuff. Will, you went on a rampage or a rant about a couple of weeks ago about controlling the narratives of the playoffs.
I'm going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
The biggest
ESPN
problem
is not going to. Yeah.
ESPN owns the college football playoff. ESPN owns it, and now they, starting January 1st, own the SEC. I don't know if you saw the clip during the Florida State game of Kirk Herbstreit openly cheering when Alabama scored the 4th and 31, because that's who Alabama wants in the playoff, or who ESPN wants in the playoff. ESPN wants Alabama in the playoff. Unfortunately, it's not about the 4 best teams. It's about the 4 teams that make ESPN the most money. And I know Texas has a lot of fans and a big fan base, but everybody's used to seeing Alabama. And fans that from Spokane to Miami are going to watch if Alabama's in the playoff.
Yeah.
They're going to, because they know who Alabama is. They've seen them there. They're used to seeing them there. So
and
Alabama wins, they're in. I've been telling everybody all year, Alabama fans, like, I don't know if we're going to make the playoff. I'm like, if you win the SEC, you're in the playoff. I don't understand why you are acting like you don't know that.
Yeah.
Because to me, they're just trying to, I don't know if they're trying to be humble or what, but they're not going to leave out SEC champion Alabama, especially a team that's won. They'll have won 11 games in a row.
And beat number 1 Georgia. They're not going to
They're going to be in. They're going to be in.
Here's another comment right here.
C-Dog, you didn't see Alabama last year because they lost, 3 games? 2 games? How many games they lose?
Yeah, they didn't make the SEC title game.
They didn't win the West, which, I mean, to be fair, they won the national championship without winning the SEC West, which is a joke in and of itself. That's 2017. ESPN and the College Football Playoff Committee showed you who and what they want in the playoff.
Yeah. If you haven't noticed all year, you look at the rankings from week 3 on. Bama's just kind of been sitting there from 10 going on to 8 now, just slowly not moving. And usually when a team plays a team like Auburn, and I get it was on the road, and struggle and get a lucky win, I'd say lucky because Auburn had all the chances in the world to win it, and just sit there at 8 the whole time because they're not going to move, shows you that they want to put them in badly.
Well, we said that when the initial playoff ranking came out. Like, they were positioning for this to happen all along. Mm-hmm. And this is the problem. A lot of people...
Yes, we know this. We know this.
Yeah. If Bama has to win this weekend. It just... And I agree with what Zach's earlier comment is. He goes, the Texas loss doesn't matter anymore. It sucks for Texas. However, the timing matters. It does. Yeah. Recency bias matters in this sport. What have you done for me lately? I'm telling you, whether you like it or not. And I'll gladly eat crow in that sense, because I do agree that results on the field should matter. But I'm telling you, if Alabama wins this weekend, they are not getting left out of the playoff. It would be unprecedented to leave the SEC champion out of the playoff. It would be wild. It'd be crazy. And Texas can kick and scream all they want. They have a massive financial backing, like we talked about earlier in the show, and they have a real right to. It is the fact of the matter of what college football is now. It's a cash grab. It's a cash cow. And this is why Ralph has this fear, because the Big Ten and the SEC make the most money. And look, we're fans of the SEC. I hate the Big Ten. Ralph hates Big Ten basketball. All of us sit here and talk about And we primarily talk about the SEC.
But
this is why people in the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the ACC hate these two conferences, because they control every dynamic. If the conversation was on the other side of the aisle with Michigan, Ohio State, and we've seen it happen before, where one of those teams got in without playing in their division, much like you alluded to in 2017 with Alabama, or Will. They control it. They are the biggest brands. And like Will said, when it gets time to play down in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl, it's going to be a couple of things. The Allstate, which is the sponsor of the Sugar Bowl down here, they're going to say, okay, who's going to travel? Who's going to make us the most money? Who's going to be a big boom for the New Orleans economy and party on Bourbon Street and all this great stuff? And then ESPN is going to say, all right, what's matchup? Do people want to watch Texas play Florida State, or they want to watch Alabama play Florida State? And the fact of the matter right now is Alabama matters more. And Jordan, you are 110% right for me in this.
Yeah.
If Texas gets left out of this, you will not see big-time conference games in the regular season, because it obviously won't matter more. 110%.
I think we're moving away from that anyway.
Because you're going to have super conferences anyways, but yeah.
Because there's two big conferences.
Yeah.
And the SEC will eventually get to 9 games in conference. So there won't be room for big time non-conference games.
No one wants to play the super schedule they're going to play in their conference and have to play, like an Oregon or something that out of conference schedule. No one wants to do that.
Well, LSU decided to. They scheduled USC to play in Las Vegas, and then they're going to play the entire SEC schedule next year, which is ridiculous. And then they're going to play UCLA as well. I forgot to mention that. They're playing USC, UCLA, and then the SEC slate.
Good for LSU.
Good for LSU. Yeah, hey, we get to go to some cool places next year.
Hey, have fun next year, dude.
Yeah.
You got a mouse in your pocket?
Well, yeah, there's going to be multiple. Chaos hasn't occurred yet. It definitely could. Hey, we appreciate you staying.
I can't.
Baseball is just fine with no out of conference game. LSU keeping it real. Let's go, baby. Welcome to the boot. We're going to be back live on Wednesday night. Will is unfortunately going to be tuning into Theo Vaughn live, which is going to be a ton of fun. We'll miss you. But I think we're going to find a host to hop in with us.
It might be one of y'all. No, I'm just kidding.
And that's why you should become a member of the YouTube channel. Join up. Maybe you might be featured on the show.
No, absolutely not.
Did we have best bets last week? No, we didn't. So this is what we're going to do this week as we roll closer to the 90-minute mark of this show. Do y'all just want to go winner take all this weekend?
No.
We bet on we go every single game.
Will obviously won. Okay. Will obviously we can't just disgrace this.
No, but I think you had a chance to beat him. Like you would have tied him if Will would have lost this weekend and you would have won.
No, it was the last one. The last one we did.
Will had a 2-game lead with 1 game left to play.
I would have had to win both weeks and he would lose one.
Okay, well, shout out Will. Hand clap for Will winning best bets of the regular season. We're going to do some bowl mania stuff. We'll do that as well. And
we'll do bowl picks. We'll just have it whoever wins that one.
Yeah, just straight up or whatever we want to do. It'll be a lot of fun. So, all right, guys. Ralph Leary, Will Manus. My name is Bryce Koon. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. If you have stayed with us, which a lot of you have, and I really appreciate that, nearly 80 minutes of just unfiltered, what in the world are we talking about type of content. Will bit off nearly half of his hand during the show. It was great stuff. Josh Brown for co-host. That is going to get us demonetized.
What happens?
That's for sure.
You talk about Alabama in the playoff. Weird things happen over here.
They do. We go 83 minutes and 45 seconds. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you like the video. And like we said, become a member of the channel. What is it? Essentially get to interact with us in a more intimate level. It's going to be a lot of fun. Will Manus, Ralph Leary, and Bryce Koon. We'll catch you next time here on The Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.